and thank you again so much for being part of my Patreon. I'm here because Matt has requested a review of Disturbia, a film that I'm sure you guys are all very familiar with. This film is actually a thriller drama, comedy, kind of. But I'm also gonna do a list at the end of my favorite thrillers of all time, which are classic thrillers that you must see. Well, let's get started on the Disturbia review. This one, I'm sure you guys have seen, so I'm not gonna be ruining anything, hopefully, fingers crossed. I wanna say straight away that the rewatchability on this film is not great. I do think it's a solid film, don't get me wrong. But because it is a thriller, finding out, murder mystery, whatever you wanna call it, because you already know who survives, what happens, it kind of ruins that aspect for you. One thing it does have going for it is it does have multiple storylines in one movie, which makes it kind of like a teen comedy rom-com meets thriller. It's quite confusing. So when you take away the thrilling aspects, you're kind of just left with that comedy, romance, cheesiness, teen movie. So my rating wasn't as high as my first viewing. The film, if you have not seen it and you've been living under a rock, is about a boy who actually gets house arrested after punching his teacher at school. This is a result of a traumatic event with him when his father dies. So he's kind of burnt by that. But when he is in house arrest for 3 months, which, how are you at home for 3 months? That sounds like a holiday to me. He starts to spy on his neighborhood and discovers a girl has just moved in. He's spying on her, but then he also discovers that his other neighbor looks very suspicious. Things I really don't like about this film is the cheese predictability factor, and I want to split that straight down the middle. Pretty much what I'm saying is they have the love, romantic, comedy, drama side, and then you have the thriller side, and everything that is predictable in any movie is in this movie, but it's on that side where all the thriller stuff is the unpredictable stuff. So I like that part, but at the start when you see the father and son bonding and then they're driving in a car, you just know what's gonna happen. I've seen so many films, so many American films where this happens. I'm done with the whole setup of, you know, one person in the family who understands me and then they die kind of situation, and it happens a lot. So obviously from there you can't help but feel bad for the guy, which makes it more of a film about the characters than the actual storyline, which again kind of retracts from the thrillerness. When he does meet his hot neighbor, that's like the whole nother cheesiness line. They have this romantic moment on the balcony where he's saying how much he loves her because he's been stalking her, which again is just a thing that happens in movies, not in real life. If someone said that they had been watching you with binoculars and you were like, that's the sweetest thing I've ever heard, I don't think that would happen. But the good part comes in when the storyline about the strange neighbor happens, and it's obviously brought into a bit of comic relief while his goofy friend comes and, you know, is always doing the wrong thing and getting himself stuck in situations. So I think you guys can kind of understand what I'm saying when I feel like it's a mashup of different genres and different plot lines and unpredictability and predictability. As for the thrilling parts, I was completely thrilled the first time I saw it. It still has that tension, but the fight scenes just don't pack a punch for me. But I do think it is a solid film. I would give this film normally I would give it like a 7, but I'm gonna give it a 6 now because I feel completely different about it watching it again. Maybe now I'm older, maybe, I don't know. It was one of those films that was so hyped at the moment. I still think it's a great film, and if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It has a great soundtrack too. But some films I really would recommend. These are my 7 classic thrillers you must see. So I'm gonna start with number 7 and go down to number 1. Starting with number 7, Deliverance. If you haven't seen Deliverance before, it is a fucked up film. I actually talk about it in one of my most disturbing movie videos. If you've seen them before, definitely check that out. But it's pretty much about a group of friends who go to the wilderness or the sticks or the bush, whatever you guys call it, where the hillbillies are, and the hillbillies stalk them, harass them, and try and kill them. And the film has some really intense scenes that will really stay with you. So if you haven't seen it, you really need to check it out. My number 6 is Black Swan. If you haven't seen this film, I don't know what you're doing with your life. This film is so intense and really highly strung. I really don't want to give away too much because your interpretation on this film is everything. Obviously, it stars Natalie Portman as a ballet dancer who has a lot of mental issues, and definitely keep that in mind when watching it. Please have a clear mind going into this film because If you blink, you might miss something, and it is a film that really relies on your attention and your interpretation. My number 5 is Taxi Driver. If you have not seen this film, I'm a huge Robert De Niro fan, especially when he was young. I think he was hot as fuck in this film. I don't care who knows it. The film is about a man who is a Vietnam War veteran, and he is now a taxi driver who's a little bit unstable, and he kind of is trying to get the filth off the streets. I don't really feel like I need to explain this film once again. You guys need to check it out. I think it has an 8.5 on IMDb, and if my recommendation isn't enough, that speaks volumes. Next film I have to talk about is Oldboy. If you guys have not seen this, what are you doing with your life? I'm meaning the original though. Don't watch the remake. I haven't watched the remake. I have the DVD sitting there since it came out. I refuse. Once again, it's a film I shouldn't spoil. All these films have really good character plots and twists and turns, so that's why I'm not going into a crazy amount of depth. Oldboy is about a man who was released after being kidnapped and held hostage for 15 years. So on his release, he tries to figure out why he was kept captive in the first place. Once again, a film with a lot of twists and turns, so check it out. Another film that needs no introduction is The Others. Huge fan of this film. It was one of the first films that really had that twist that shocked you, which I really liked. It also stars Nicole Kidman, who fellow Aussie, top notch. The kids in this film are really fucking creepy too. And that scene when she's got that veil over her head and she's playing with that puppet or whatever, that kid, and she's that old lady, that used to creep me out so bad. If you haven't seen The Others, it's definitely like a line between a thriller and a horror. I would say it's kind of like Woman in Black a little bit, but a lot more mysterious, and the acting is just amazing. The set is phenomenal. It's very like an empty, echo haunted house. So when you watch this film, you just know you're in for like the creepiest vibe. A film that I feel like goes hand in hand with The Others is The Sixth Sense. I assume you guys have all seen this film, but if you haven't, because this is the must-see, you need to watch it. The film is about a man, Bruce Willis, whose relationship with his wife seems to be deteriorating after a crazy event that happened. If you don't know what happens in this film, you have been hiding under a rock and you have missed the biggest spoiler of the 21st century. Please check it out. And my favorite thriller of all time, this is a film that I would say is close to being the most perfect film on earth. Even though I wouldn't say it's my favorite film ever, it's definitely got all of the aspects that makes it perfect. This is The Silence of the Lambs. This film has a rewatchability factor, unlike Disturbia, of 10 out of 10. It is amazing. There's so much going on, so much carries this film through different scenes, and the performances are just amazing. I love this film, and if you haven't watched it, you need to watch it, and if you haven't rewatched it in a couple of years, I strongly suggest that as your homework. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that list was somewhat relevant. I'm sure you guys have seen them all. Let me know if you haven't, and let me know what your must-see thrillers are, and who knows, maybe I haven't seen them, and maybe that's my homework. I'll talk to you guys very soon. Once again, thank you for being a Patreon, and thank you for being part of the Spooky Club. There's so many of us now. I'm so excited. I'll be in touch with the next live stream details in early February, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Bye.